Okay, okie dokie. We are back with another week of the Letterman Legends podcast. Your favorite podcast, at least so we hope. I am your host, Chris Miles, here joining you for another week of the show. So we definitely appreciate you guys showing up for another week, tuning in. We appreciate the continued support. We Our new numbers on TikTok, we're able to see you guys engaging. So I appreciate all of mostly my friends and family commenting, making sure that the podcast gets the necessary love and support that it needs. But we ask for, we first off, we're very appreciative of that. Everybody that's coming on and leaving reviews, liking the podcast, following it, resharing our posts. You don't know how much that means to us. We truly appreciate it. So I won't name drop because I don't know if you guys want this out there to the world. We'll have to check individually, but you know who you are. We appreciate it. My guys, my homies from back home, reposting everything that comes out, liking and supporting. We truly appreciate it. It's invaluable to us. So you keep us going and coming back. So yeah, if you are new to the show, we ask that you, and even if you have been listening, if you're not following us, you're missing out. Go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram. We also live stream the episodes to, well, not, I guess, live replay the episodes to YouTube as well. So be sure to follow us there whenever we drop. You'll be notified and be able to tune in and never miss an episode. So that's super cool, as well as our posting of any shorts. So those will be on our TikToks. We kind of try and sample them out on Instagram too, when we can, at least before an episode. But you can mostly find us on the TikTok and YouTube as far as our shorts and just chopped up segments of the episode. So this week, man, it's what is going on in the world. It's been crazy. I think it's just with the summer, work's been crazy. So I'm actually recording before work. I had to get up early to get this episode out to you guys. I don't know if it's just the summer or everyone going on vacation, but work's been crazy all around, and I know a lot of companies are experiencing high rates of turnovers and layoffs. So that's never ideal for anyone, for the company, or of course being affected by it. So things are just ramping up, and it's getting pretty crazy. So I am sending my prayers to anybody that's affected by that out there listening to the show, and everybody working. Sending my prayers out to you as well, because those things come with a lot of turnover and work on your end as well. So your day-to-day changes as well as the individual affected by the layoffs. So but yeah, speaking of layoffs, this week ESPN got rid of their um, broadcaster Ryan Clark this week, which was long overdue, if you want my opinion. And I hate to. I'm in no way, and I want to state that right off the jump, I'm in no way supporting anybody losing their job in this economy. It's tough. Things are definitely uncertain all over the board. So I'm definitely not pushing that or wanting that for anybody, especially not for another black man either. That's the last thing I want to see happen. But if there was anybody who has been asking to lose their job for a while, it was Ryan Clark. You get in that position, you use your position, and I'm all for it. You raise attention to, the social issues going on, whether it be racial, political. There's a time and a place for that on the show, and you have this platform. But unfortunately, and I think he actually even has his own podcast aside of that, but he would choose to go on ESPN and voice those opinions instead of actually talk about the topics at hand. And it's like, Stephen A. does it. You can get up there and discuss what's going on. I feel like that's your right to do, and I feel like you should with the platform, but in moderation. And I think he just kind of that just became his whole stick to the point where he was getting into it. First off, he's downplaying the athletes and downing them on the show publicly. And Ryan Clark was a pretty good player, but you know not to the point where we should be. It just became to the point where it was just like almost like he's a bitter broadcaster, and was kind of pulling down the ratings of the show. People tune in to hear, especially a former sports athlete, they played the game at the highest level, talk about the game, but you're bringing up race and your own personal biases and things you're trying to push to the media, and you know making everything basically like a race war, and it didn't need to be that. It was a waste of an opportunity, and it just kind of shows that in the midst of all of that, you got a job. They expect you to do the job. I was upset that they got rid of Cam Newton, though. I actually thought he did a pretty good job with coming on there, but I think that just might be politics there. Like they just didn't like him for some reason. But I actually thought Cam Newton came on and did a pretty good job. So he would get on there and he would actually talk about sports and the topics at hand. So yeah, whatever is happening, that's the business of things. I wish Ryan Clark and Cam Newton, and I think Bart Scott got let go as well. So just everybody's experiencing layoffs. You know, this is not the time to lose jobs. So I'm definitely not, celebrating it. Yeah, you may see me throw something on the grill this weekend. If you do see that, just ignore the post. I'm definitely going through something over here. But I think the funniest part was seeing, they had to, of course, he has to do his whole little spiel with Stephen A. getting on yesterday. Doing his whole little breakdown of how this whole thing affected him, and he's got to do his whole thing of well, let me be clear about, is the camera in my face right now? All right, let me be clear by saying, let me start off with this. There's a lot of people that's not of color than my brother Ryan Clark that have done the same things. I can name countless, but I'm not, because I'm on air. But I just want y'all to know. And you know what? I don't want to dive into the personals because this is Disney. I'm employed by Disney. But I think I would be remiss if I didn't say how brutally unfeasible, unpredictable this layoff was. Not just to the ESPN crew, but to myself and Big Perk. You see, being a brother in this, and I'm gonna try and be specific with my words because I don't want to offend anybody. But ESPN, if you listening, which I know you are, you could have pulled me to the side and told me that before. But Stephen A. got fired on commercial. That don't mean nothing. That's irrelevant. That's blasphemous. But like I said, I ain't gonna say too much. I'm gonna pass it to my brother Big Perk. And then Big Perk came on, and oh boy, it went downhill from there. He come on. He wasn't even talking about the topic. He just got on there and just started. Yeah, Stephen A. What happened today with Ryan Clark? It's just symbolic of what's happening across the world. You see, my mother used to tell me, Big Perk, get your ass up and go to work. But you can't go to work, Stephen A., without a job. They took that man's job, Stephen A. And then, being on ESPN, Stephen A., I understand the layoff. I grew up with Ryan. We used to shoot hoops in Pittsburgh when he was on the Steelers. So I know this brother too. But my grandma always told me, if you ain't got no job, you can't get this car. And that's something that I live with to this day. Every day I get up for work, I think about what my grandma told me. So I keep a job. But what do you do when, Stephen A., when people are purposely trying to take that job from you? It's crazy, man. And I feel for the brother, and Brother Ryan, if you need anything, you let me know. But I was totally thrown off guard when I heard that news. So yeah, we gotta hear that probably for the rest of the week. But hopefully we continue getting people off of just out of jobs. I think just in general. And once again, I know it sounds like I am happy about this. I'm not happy about all the firings at ESPN, but it's like, if you've ever been in a job and you've had to, carry the weight of somebody not bringing anything to the team, then, you're probably you kind of in the same mindset as me that, certain people need to be let go, man. We can't be afraid to do that. If you're not doing a job, then you need to, you gotta find something that you enjoy doing. Because like if you're every segment you're getting on and you're talking about, you know, you trying to make everything race related, or it comes down to that. And I know it's happening. I'm not trying to ignore that facet of it. But if that's what you're doing weekly, you kind of water it down. It's like if you're making just regular game segments about race somehow, it's like when real issues come up, everybody's so blind and numb to you getting on here and talking about it. They not trying to hear it. You're like the boy who cried wolf. You do this every day you get on the show. You're getting into it with your colleagues. You know, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna work anywhere. So hopefully it's a reality check, and it just went untapped for a long time. So I'm glad they nipped that in the bud. But moving on, our food, we need to also pay attention, if we're not, that all the food that we are supposed to be eating is now somehow contaminated, poisoned. Now you can't eat the produce, you can't eat the meats. Pause. You can't eat. You can't. The milk's gone bad. It's just a mess, man. It's a rough time period to be living in. And this is something unprecedented. Like you always thought like you could grow your own stuff, and I mean that may still be safe depending on where you live at, but it's a lot going on right now. So I just pray everybody is safe and careful what you're consuming and putting into your body right now, even more so than you probably had to be, because it's crazy. And I hate that is what's currently the reality. But you gotta take care of yourself, and because they're not trying to, they don't care. They're in no rush to nip this in the bud. You can't even eat Taco Bell. But fortunately, I heard, as of like last night, Taco Bell kind of found out the issue and was able to resolve that. So you should be good to go there, if all the Taco Bell eaters. But it's just crazy. It's crazy. So, you know, just keep your head, guys, and continue praying, and we'll see what happens. But getting into this week's episode, that was a long intro, but I wanted to get you guys a show this week. I know we're still in the early stages, so I definitely want to make sure I'm getting you guys shows weekly, to keep myself in that algorithm. And yeah, just keep them going so that you guys are getting them in your feed, and necessary eyes on the show that we need. But just with work and things like that, I wanted to do a biography actually of an athlete. And before I get into that, though, special shout out, a big thank you again to Ty for coming on the show last week. It was a great episode. If you guys haven't tuned in, please go back and give that a listen. I think it's a must watch, especially as a sports fan and anybody that coaches or is fans of the game or sports in general. Just kind of hearing his journey, the things he learned, and just how it's made him into the person he is today. I think it's a really great story, and this is basically the foundation of what we wanted to accomplish when we started the show here. So please go back and give that a listen if you haven't already. I will be clipping it up and putting some episodes out. Well, not episodes out, but shorts out this week on our TikTok and YouTube page. So please be sure to keep an eye out for that later on down the road. But yeah, this week with the influx of work and coaching starts up next week as well. So I have licenses and things I have to get accomplished there before I think Friday. So I didn't have the time to do the research for that full biography. But continue sending those athletes in, though, that you would like for us to cover, and we will be sure to get to them in due time. And we never want to run out of athletes, so we only know the ones we know. So if there's a hometown hero that you like or would like covered, please just send us an email at lettermanlegendspodcast@gmail.com. So this week, I know we actually spoke with a Letterman legend last week, but I was always interested in the stories of people who played sports and were pretty good at the sports that encountered that future pro player, whether it's in high school, growing up, childhood. You kind of notice that these guys are different right away, and it's not just like he's good. It's like this person or a girl is a lot better than what I am, and I thought considered myself good or whatever the case may be. So I'm coming with two stories of my own, two personal stories of me encountering or watching future professional players in their respective sports. So, and then if we have enough time at the end, I want to take a trip to Reddit and read a few stories that I noticed that they have on there as far as people sharing their stories of the same. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So in high school, I'll do it in chronological order. So in high school, you guys heard the story about me injuring my humerus and being out my sophomore year. Well, that year we were pretty good, as I mentioned. Pretty dominant team, had the right attitude, had the right coaches in place. Was our best year TF North had and throughout my 4 years. So that year though, we went 6-3, and one of our losses was I think we actually won this game during the season, but that year we went against Oak Forest, the Oak Forest Bengals. They were in our conference team that we played, and they had the former Indiana Hoosier, former New York Jet, Atlanta Falcon, and former San Francisco 49er running back Tevin Coleman on their team. Now, not having played my freshman year, I was unaware of, this guy coming into that season, but I was injured, so I didn't play, but I was at the game. And in high school, just kind of tell you the difference, there was a guy on our team who was our track star, Mr. Thompson. That's what I'll call him, Mr. Thompson. He played football, so he would have been a junior at this time because he's a year over me. Track star. strictly ran, was on the team. He was like special teams pretty much, and they put him back to run the kicks because he was so fast. So we thought. And let me preface that. Let me clean that up a little bit. He still was very fast. Yeah, I'm not no knock at you, Mr. Thompson. He still was very fast. His track stats definitely correlate with that. He was very fast, and he was faster than me. Now, so don't think I'm over here like trying to tear him down. But in high school, Tevin Coleman ran a 4.3 in high school, which at that, if for those who don't know, at that speed, you're pressed to find anybody in the state that can run that at that time during high school. So he was running a 4.3 in high school. So he was pretty much, and he wasn't an in between the tackles back. He was pretty much, he liked to get to the outside because who was going to catch him? So that first game, we did a good job. We had great defense. Shout out to the Collins twins, Big Ozo. Um, we're Puffy Combs. um, we were pretty balanced on defense. We had dogs out there. They were not just trying to get back there and for pictures. They got back there. They're trying to do some damage. So that game, I'm pretty sure he ran exceptionally well that game. I'm not sure what his exact stats were, but it was literally I'm on the sideline watching. Okay, um, we for the first half of the game, he's tearing us up, engaging us. But they didn't have their defense wasn't too good, so it was like almost like a ping pong match because we would go right back down the field and score. But he would literally get to the sideline and it was a wrap. If he got around the defensive end, it was over with. And he almost lined up. He wasn't your typical like in the running back stance. I think he was pretty big. He was like 6 feet, so they put him almost like at a slot / wing position, and they would send him in like motion. He would get the ball, and good luck. If your DN got blocked, that was it. The play was over. You weren't catching him. So they did that for the first half against us, and then the second half, we were like, okay, we're going to make the adjustment. We brought Mr. Thompson in, who was mostly, like I mentioned, special teams, but I guess his position, if he was to fill in, would have been defensive back or safety. So he comes into the game, and he's just back at safety. His only goal is to, if he breaks past the line of scrimmage, take an angle and go track him down. Now, this is our fastest track guy. He goes to the safety position. Sure enough, Tevin Coleman breaks it. He breaks around the defensive end, and he's on his way. Well, I'm watching the track guy. So we have a free and a strong safety. I think my guy Davi was at strong safety. I seen it happen on each side. Shout out to Davi. Davi was only a sophomore, so I'll give him a break. But Tevin Coleman hit the sideline, and he's going, and I see them take an angle. They're like this, and he just flat out outran them. It was incredible to watch. It sucked to watch because it was your team. Your team was losing, but just to see that type of speed at that age, it was like I was like, oh, he can. I mean, it wasn't that I thought like, because he wasn't an in between. He didn't remind you of like a running back. He was a taller guy, and I know he probably doesn't look like that watching him like in the game because those guys are giants at NFL level, but he looked like a receiver, just a fast receiver. And he's maybe like 190, so like 6 feet, 190 in high school. But he could run like the wind. And he would hit the sideline and take it to the crib. So that was the regular season game. I want to say we won that game, but we knew Tevin Coleman was after that. And, well, at least I did. And the team probably already did. So we were like, okay, we're going to make adjustments. So Looking back on it, I actually think maybe they kept the safeties as they were. And for the playoffs, which we faced them first round, they brought the guy in. So sorry, I may have exposed you too early. I think it was just the regular safety. So actually, either it was either Davi and my guy Nikita, or it was it's been a while, guys. Not sure, but yeah, those safeties, they pretty much, it was just a foot race that they weren't going to win at that stage. So for the playoffs, the whole plan was to put Mr. Thompson at safety and have him kind of just spy, pretty much be there if he got past the wave. He's there to chase him down, or at least redirect him into you know the guys who the backers or the help defense. So that's our playoff plan. If Coleman gets back, we're gonna see it. We're gonna see the foot race. Well, playoffs come and we are winning. I remember I didn't go to this game, but I remember and I saw like the highlights of it, but we were winning 21-0 at halftime. We were 6-3. We got to host the game at home. It was a blackout. I remember that. You know, we this whole school came out. It was blackout at the field, black T-shirts. Everything. We were black uniforms. We were lit, and we started off great. So halftime, I remember back then, they had like they would do like Twitter would show you like the high school, and they probably still do it. But I know you can like live stream it now. But they would just show you. That's kind of how you followed along, was through the Twitter app. They would show your school and show you what the scores were through the quarters. So I was just on. I had to like keep refreshing, but I was watching it through there, and it was 21-0 at halftime. In high school, that game should be over, but not with Tevin Coleman across the field. So we get out the half, and then I checked the final score, and it was like 28 to like 42. They put up 42 points and a half. I'm not sure I don't know if they told. I'm sure, he ended the game with some crazy stats, and I wish I had them. But those who played, I'm sure, remember exactly how that half went. But it was disheartening because we just knew we had that one in the bag, and we were going to get to the second round, which we hadn't done in probably 8 years prior to that. So that was like the 2011-2012 season. So yeah, it was disheartening, but you knew like he was gonna go to the next level just from his, if it was flat out speed. He wasn't. I don't recall him running through people. As some people have stories that have played against different running backs who just like you felt he was just too much quicker, or was jumping over people. I don't remember that. It was just more so like he almost, if it was the opposite, it was like he didn't want to get hit, so he was just hit that sideline, and that was it. So throughout his career, it definitely changed, where you saw like he could put the ball in between the tackles, and get the hard yards going. Pause. Jesus. Get the tough yards if necessary, as you saw with the Indiana Hoosiers, and majority, with the 49ers is what I really remember. And I remember the Falcons as well. He had a pretty good career. So, yeah, that was the first instance of us playing against a NFL player, future NFL player. My second occurrence of that was so I went to Hutchinson. Everybody remembers. I went there, and they had some future stars. And I remember I watched. This isn't the athlete that I'm talking about. I would watch Alvin Kamara, and it was almost the same way. Like everything ran through him. They would do like a bubble pass, and he would just jug out the whole team. Or they'd give him the ball, as a running back, and you just see like a crowd surround him. And the next thing you know, he's coming out of the crowd, and he's on the sideline. And in the stands, you can't pick. I'm sure you can't grasp how fast these guys are going. Definitely not through TV, but nobody would be able to catch him. And as far as I know, Alvin wasn't. He's probably like a what high 4.4 runner in the 40, five maybe 4.5. But it's just like he was quick. He was more agile. And he would like run through tackles, make guys miss and things like that. So, it's not for lack of effort. They ended up winning the junior college championship, but you saw it there. You kind of knew like this guy was special. Then from there he went to Tennessee, and the rest was history. But the next athlete that I saw that later became a pro, and this is a shorter story, but as I was getting into, I went to Kansas, hated it, met some great people, but hated it. Was ready to. I was like, I didn't want this to be, my experience for university. So I left there and went to Western Illinois. Well, there, and I took a step back from sports, but we would play basketball. And I was always at the rec center playing basketball every day. Every day. That was second important after class. You made it to class, okay, cool. Your reward was going to play basketball. So we would go there, and there was this big guy, big kid. He's probably about 6 feet, but easily 320, 330. And so okay, just to put it in context, this guy would get on the court and he'd want to play the point guard position, and they would let him play the point guard because he was that agile, that fast, that decisive with the ball. It wasn't in comparison to other guys. Let's say there was other guys that were like around his size. They're not even getting picked up. If they are, they're shooters. They can shoot the ball. This guy's playing point guard. So, in comparison to people his size, all in all, if all things are equal, if you take the same person that was like the equivalent to him at that time at the gym, they're not getting on the court, or they're there to stick him, which was always lopsided. People, I was probably 170 at the time, and I was defending him, and he was giving me a go. But no, this guy turned out to be Colin Saunders, for the Saints, former Saints player, former Chiefs player, Super Bowl winner, and current Jacksonville Jaguar. This guy was a freak athlete. He would play full basketball games, and he would, after the game would be finished, we play like 3-4 games. It was like we're leaving the rec center. He would bust out and do a backflip after basketball games, running and jumping, and after all that, he would and this guy's every bit of it, 310, 320, just no hands either, just do a backflip, and he was just a freak of nature, and we were super excited when he got invited to like the All-American game, I believe, in college. But he was a tackle, and they called him like the little Aaron Donald from the Rams. That was his name, like the Midwest Aaron Donald. So you got to be doing something good if you're getting compared to that. But he was just a freak athlete. He super nice guy. Super nice guy as well. Very humble. You almost wouldn't even know he played football because he was just as good as in basketball too. If he told you he played for the team, you believe it. Like, he was a heck of an athlete, and it goes to show that as I touched on earlier, when I got to college and was doing track, it was like you could be the best in your town and best in your conference, the best in your section. The sectionals, the region, I guess would be what it would be called, and you get to the next level, and that's everybody, everybody, and then more people who dominated even more than that. So it's truly humbling. But then when you see those pros, that's an entirely different level on that. They're dominating at the college level. So it's definitely humbling, and but definitely makes for good stories, and it kind of shows you kind of, I guess it puts everything into perspective for you. Everybody growing up, they feel like they can be that person, or they're good enough to one day do that, and it's like you don't know how talented these people really are. Like it's literally God given, like it's God ordained, God destined. The genetic lottery, strength wise, speed wise, agility, all that plays a factor. And it's like if you're missing one or two things, that's gonna you're gonna get blown by the guy that's going to the pros. So and yeah, and you can kind of look at some of the I included highlights with last week's show, just how dominant our guest last week was, and which I feel he could have went to the pros. But if you want my honest opinion, but just see how it was just like it just was. He's going to get some of the best guys in the state, the country, and there was nothing they could do with them. And that's just how the way things work. But those are my three personal encounters with future pro athletes. Fortunately, well, unfortunately, I've never seen like a future NBA player live or person that went live to the pros of that. Only like football. So here's the people cutting grass. But yeah, those are my three encounters with that. But I am going to, I think we still have a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and read a few stories from Reddit. So give me a second there. And if you are enjoying the show so far, go ahead and give us a like, give us a follow, maybe. I don't know. Never hurt anybody. It's free. Why not? Okay. Ooh. Let's go. All right. First story is from DeAndre's show, and before I get started, I want to make it clear these are Reddit stories, so these are all alleged experiences. They tend to be probably 80-20 with the truth on here, so we hope that the stories that we get to you guys today are true. But if they are making any mention of things these athletes did or didn't do, you can kind of use your own intuition there and whether or not it's true or not. But I don't want to make any, if there's any personal attachments that they're putting on these athletes or things like that they did or did not do. These are all just a disclaimer. I'm just reading the stories. These is not my own personal opinion of these athletes or things like that. So I'm want to make sure I'm going to kind of skim through them to make sure they're not putting anything too personal about the athletes there. We just kind of want to keep it at the sports level, but just wanted to put that out there that these are stories of others and not myself. So I do not own the rights of these stories, and just read them as a presenter. So, as I mentioned, this story is from DeAndre's show. He says, so, let me clear my throat. Here we go. So, I played against Ron Artest at UCLA when he was about 2 years out of the league. Even with some of the club basketball guys there, it was completely effortless domination from him. I know all the NBA players can shoot, but seeing it in person is next level. He just went through the motions and didn't miss a shot. He was a nice guy too. Spent time after the games to chat with the students and take pics. Somebody commented on that. This one's from B May 115. I remember watching a shoot around when I was a kid before the Laker game, and Glenn Rice drained at least 23s in a row. Just completely effortless. There was a gym I went to that had a lot of pro guys from all sports there during off season, and had ex-NBA guys play pickup and league games on their courts. There was some tall white dude that wasn't even NBA or anything. He got hurt and was rehabbing. I don't even know if he was going to college or not, but he was trying to get into the NBA and probably ended up playing overseas somewhere, I think. He was like 6'10 ish, and this was like 15 years ago before guys his size could do everything. He could dunk like nothing, was super athletic, and could drain threes all night. And he was trying to make it to the NBA, and he just wrecked. Even the worst guy in the NBA or NHL or Major League Baseball would just destroy the best rec leaguers in the world. If you go to NHL practices, you can see the goons who never score just sniping the shit from all over and batting pucks out of the air into the net. It's really wild how insanely skilled these guys are. When you see them playing other super high level guys, you don't quite see it like when you see a pro or Olympic caliber athlete mess around with like the best amateurs. That's true. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. I remember when I was a kid, when I was playing basketball, and my dad was he would always go work out, and he would drop us off to these like open gyms, and a lot of the players were like overseas and semi-pro basketball players, and they were all huge. But he was, of course, he was thinking he's trying to get us better at the game, and so he would send us up there while he worked out, and they would pick us up. They'd be either there'd be short players, or after a little bit, they kind of saw how we played, so they would let us play with them. And I know they were going half speed with us and not really playing defense now that I'm grown, but yeah, those guys they're great. They were doing all types of dunks, and I think the thing you kind of notice the most with that is how fast the game is. It's one thing to be playing with your friends or little brother in the backyard, and you can make every shot because you're going 50% speed, but those guys, like the passes are coming a lot quicker. They're doing no looks, and they would hit you in like the chest. They wouldn't even look, and next thing they're getting in chest with the ball, and it's bouncing out of bounds. It's just it's crazy, and just the vision. You think they're out of a shot, they're fading out of bounds, they're shooting it over the backboard, and it's going in all net. It's just yeah, it's a different world in its own. MLS analyst says, I played beer pong against Ray Allen in college. He used Diet Coke because he didn't drink. I never got to shoot. He shot first and didn't miss. I had to chug my whole stack, and I'm not kidding. That's hilarious. Somebody says, I love Ray Allen asking for a non-alcoholic beverage. Even though he never drank it, he may as well have asked for Everclear. Let's see. This one says, Jamal Crawford and one of his Hawks teammates came to LA Fitness once and ran with us. They basically just went like 70% speed, there you go, and literally never missed whenever they decided to shoot. Mostly all mid-range pull-ups and threes. They weren't really trying, but they scored almost all of their team's points and made pretty quick work of us. I'm telling you, man, it's insane. It's definitely insane. You can't. It's tough to put into words. Just the difference. Let's see. This one says Chris Paul was a guest speaker at five-star basketball camp in the early 2000s, and after he talked, he posted up at the court and let anyone who wanted to play him one-on-one play up to three. I waited in line for almost an hour to get inside. Out. Great. I guess he meant to say he. I waited in line for almost an hour to get inside. He crossed me so bad he must have felt. Maybe I just have a Wentworth education. Jesus, let's redo this, guys. I waited in line for almost an hour to get inside. I guess we both went to Wentworth. What is this? Shout out to Wentworth. Shout out to Wentworth. Alright, I'm an extraordinary reader because of them. Alright, shout out to Wentworth. No knock at Wentworth. I waited in line for almost an hour to get inside. outcrossed so bad he must have felt bad because he missed the next 3 pointer for the win, and I got the rebound. I sprinted to the 3 point line and back for a layup, which he let me have. Then he picked my shot so fast after the checkup and splashed it through the win. I'm just glad he didn't punch me. I guess that was a reference to him in Rajon Rondo back at that Christmas game. Okay. It says, I played against Kawhi Leonard at San Diego State during a random open gym session. I didn't guard him, but I guarded another unathletic looking dude around my height, which is 6'4". Kawhi looked incredibly uninterested and was just getting a run in. Hardly spoke too. No surprise there, right? The other guy was on the college team, and my God, he destroyed me. I remember distinctly knowing he was a decent 3 point shooter from his random warm up. So I closed out on him too hard, and he made me dance, and then dunked on me so bad they're just a different level. Then I saw Kawhi get like 1% serious the next game as they played a better team, and he was so casually dominating. Oh, dude, I'm talking about people who are on the bench in the NBA. You know, people who couldn't even. They're not even like G League. They're like overseas guys and things like that. Were head and shoulders better than the people who went there every Sunday and played basketball. Like, you knew when they came in, they were gonna, it was over. You wanted to be on their team because you knew any other way you were losing. So, yeah, I can only imagine if you're playing against Kawhi Leonard. Even in college, he was not trying at all. He probably could shoot it with like his left hand the whole game and lead his team to a win. Like, these guys are extraordinary. Let's see. Back in '09, there was this men's tournament at a big rec gym in Toronto, and Chris Brown. Chris Brown walked in and started dancing. All right. Back in '09, there was this men's tournament at a big rec gym in Toronto, and Chris Bosh walked into the gym with this group of guys to take in the action. He was my favorite player at the time, but he came way after my game was done, lol. I was 15 at the time, probably one of the younger guys in the tournament. After the games were over, he checked himself into a game of 21 with me and the other younger guys already started. He's a big, big dude. Pause. Just shooting over everyone and swishing everything. I shot a floater over him, and he said, "Oh, you're a lefty too?" That's the only interaction I had. It was a fun experience. Still one of my favorite players. Shout out to Chris Bosh for not coming in there and dancing. Here we go. Played pickup with an overseas pro a few years ago. He was infinitely better than even the best casual hoopers in that run. I definitely didn't belong on the court with a player that good. Never forgot the infamous Scalabrini's quote. Shout out to Scalabrini. When talking about how many people think they could beat him one-on-one. I'm much closer to LeBron than you are to me. I might suck for an NBA player. Those guys are pretty good, but I don't suck compared to you. You suck compared to me. Shout out to Brian, man. That is very true, though. He is closer to LeBron than we are to him. Like anybody in that NBA, even the last guy on the bench, even the guy pass out the wire is probably closer to LeBron than you are. That last one may be a stretch, but let's see. Joe Ingles talked about this on JJ Redick's podcast 5 years ago. This was like this breakout year after cooking Paul George in the playoffs. He said he'd get random dudes coming up to him on the street all the time demanding that he play them one on one, insisting they could beat him. He said something to the effect of, "Look, I know I've got a receding hairline, and I'm not super shredded, and I don't jump like Donovan, but come on. Be serious. I'm 6'9", and not only am I a professional athlete, but I'm a starter on an NBA playoff team. I will destroy you all." It's true. Let's see if I can get some football ones. This one isn't even. This one isn't even like the actual game related. This is just like the athletes, I guess, just as far as the energy it takes, I guess, to play at the levels they do, like how much they got to eat in comparison. So this one says, my family is actually from India, and we had an Indian buffet where it's all you can eat for $13. And Luca came in and cleaned us out, had to shut down. It's tough on my dad because he's getting too old to open up another restaurant. Somebody said Luca is closer to Joey Chestnut than we are to him. Joey Chestnut is the hot dog eating guy, competition guy. Just trying to skim through these guys. Let's see. I grew up in Charlotte and played rec ball. This is from, it says deleted. Grew up in Charlotte and played rec league ball against Steph Curry. Was around 11 or 12 at the time. I got to meet Dale Curry, who was at the game, and shake his hand. Was okay. He didn't say nothing. I want the experience, man. What happened? Tell us a story. Let's see. See if we can get some football ones. What are we looking at on time? Guys, I'm not trying to be late for work. Guy says, I have a cousin who played in the NFL for over a decade. He was a quarterback. Maybe. Okay, I guess you don't want to name drop. That's okay. Over a decade, he was a quarterback. I never played against him per se, but I had a really hard time playing catch with him, football or anything else. You would think there'd be more. Well, I guess it's rare to get to that stage. So, okay, here we go. I played against Will Shipley in lacrosse. He ended up committing to Clemson for football and is now behind Saquon on the Eagles. And this story is from Charred Mushrooms. All right, you gotta love Reddit. I played him in his second sport, and it is crazy how athletic this kid is. I played high-level D1 lacrosse and have obviously been around some insane athletes, but I've never seen a kid who ran so smooth yet so violent. I played goalie, so I could only watch from the goal, but he was an automatic clear. Not one of my teammates even touched him when he had the ball in his stick. Mind you, half of my teammates were committed to high-level D1 programs as well. In addition, I played against Dante Trader, also in lacrosse, who got drafted by the Dolphins. Similar to Shipley, these kids just move different. Simply, they are quicker, faster, stronger, but more noticeably, they are so smooth. And that's true. Yeah. I guess I don't know if I said it, but watching Alvin Kamara, Colin Saunders, sorry, I don't know what. I want to say, I think it's because the relation with Colonel Sanders. You make it tough. Colin Saunders and Tevin Coleman, so Kamara, all those guys, same thing I noticed. They were running hard, but it didn't look like they were running fast because it was so smooth, if that makes sense. Like, you see people who did track, the fast people, it looked like they were like running fast. It just looked like they were just like trotting almost, but nobody could catch them. Everything was crisp with AK. It was, he was almost like he was going in slow motion, but nobody else is at that speed. Interesting. It's an interesting thing to point out. But yeah, simply they are quicker, faster, stronger, but more noticeably, they are so smooth. It never looks like they are out of breath. Also, didn't play against them, but I've heard from many people in the lacrosse community how much an, how much of an athletic freak Pat Spencer is. He won the Tewarden Award his senior year, and then used this extra year of eligibility to go to Northwestern and play basketball. He led the team in points and rebounds, and now has a contract with the Golden State Warriors. I was a big hockey player in high school as well. I played in New England. Okay, this is a long story. But basically he finishes it with, "Don't let any couch potato tell you they could sniff these guys' jock straps, simply because they can't." All right, can I get a? I saw something before. My high school team fought against. I don't see. These people are misspelling words. They're letting English whoop their ass, and then now I look like the idiot reading these stories. But it's really that they. And two things could be true, but they are just butchering these sentences, and I probably should have pulled something up that I'd already pre-read that made sense. Jeez. All right. My high school team fought against LeBron, played against LeBron. If I remember the scores correctly, it was like 103-20, an embarrassing loss for us. In football, it was straight up humiliating. I got mauled by Brandon Jacobs in high school. Don't feel bad, everybody did. Baseball, not so much. Being a freakish athlete at 17 years old, didn't have the same advantages in baseball. Put out many a future MLB players in high school. Played basketball with Robert Tractor Trailer. He was an absolutely monster-sized person at 13. Who is Robert Trailer? Sorry, guys, I can't let that one pass. I don't know. Robert Trailer. Okay, this is. Oh, I think I remember him passing. I don't know. Oh, R.I.P. Robert Deshaun Tractor Trailer was an American professional basketball player known for his size, strength, and post presence. He's from Puerto Rico. Yep. Oh, he's born in Detroit. Sorry. Huh. 6'9", about 300 pounds. Interesting. All right, let's do one more story, guys. All right, let's do this one. I grew up in this one's from I Am Austin CG. It says, I grew up in the Philly area. My junior year, we played against cornerback East. What? Okay, sorry. I'm the football brain. Yeah, we played against CB East, who had a senior running back NDB named Brian Scott. We had a very good team, but I'll never forget the moment of the game when one of our running backs, who ran a 4.3, took off on a long run. Now, Brian had been blitzing from the other side of the field and took off and caught our running back on the 5-yard line from behind, which, as I mentioned, we had a 4.3 guy, Stephen Coleman, who we put our best track runner out there who couldn't chase down. So this is a freak we're talking about. Who took off, Brian had been blitzing from the other side of the field and took off and caught our running back on the 5-yard line from behind and sort of just jumped and tackled him. It was an incredible play, and we knew this kid was something special. He played at Penn State University and on the Saints, Bills, and Falcons for about 9 seasons. I also watched an eighth grade Kobe destroy my high school team. At the time, we already knew he was destined for the NBA. R.I.P. Kobe. Um, yeah, but I think you guys get the hint there. I thought that was an important um, just designation to make there because it is when we talk about these athletes and we hear their stories and just how the dominant they were. It's kind of easy to because they're gonna put it as simple as walking for them, but it's really it's if you think about these types of things and these feats that they're accomplishing on records they're breaking, they're tough to do, and that's why they last so long because these are generational athletes and they're one of one in their respective positions or sports, and then they get to the pros and they may or may not have the career that you grew up seeing or watching them do. You may have expected more, but it's like that just goes to show that level, and it just I feel like it helps you better respect what you're watching. When the final product on those game days, the MLB players, the hockey players, the basketball players, the football players. It helps put into perspective what you're watching. So although, and I've been affected by this as well. You put a guy down and get a home run, and he doesn't, and it's like you're like, dude, this guy's like, I would have done this. Or you see a guy miss a 3-pointer, definitely me. I've seen that. See a guy miss a wide open three in a game, or not get the certain amount of points you want him to. And you're like, dude, this guy's trash. Like, I would have made that shot, or I would have done this. And it's like, nah, would you? Would you have? So, yeah, I just think it brings a better respect to the game. It helps us appreciate, what we're watching, and the athletes, and kind of just that level that they're on, and just makes you appreciate the game you're watching because you're literally watching players who had to overcome injury, avoid injuries, put in the work, but as well as just like these are just like the guys who were made to do this. So it kind of helps you appreciate the art of the game and kind of what you're dealing with, and and as I mentioned, like a lot of times they'll talk about it just like, oh, I just, I went out there and I had 300, 400 yards that game, and the next game I came in and my knee was sore, so I only had 280 yards, and it's just like, because it just comes in that naturally to them, So it's I don't want that to be lost. It's just like the actual things that are being accomplished there. Just because the athletes or people telling the stories may not necessarily relay that, but that is it this week for Letterman Legends podcast. I wanted to give you guys a show, so I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like the Reddit format of me stumbling and bumbling through stories, then let us know. Send us an email or let us know in the comments that you like this new format. We can do that on weeks that are super busy like this one going forward. But yeah, we appreciate you guys joining us as always. We hope you have a great week. I'm about to go and try and get a walk in before work, but I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Be careful what you're consuming. If we're getting produce, make sure we're washing it, not just diving in. And yeah, hopefully we get this under resolve, and everything else may be going to crap, but hopefully at least we're able to at least enjoy our food. We can't do that. What do we have truly? So yeah, that's it for Letterman Legends podcast. I'm Chris Miles. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.